we'll be tackling a very timely issue about the future of air travel. I'm sure a lot of you guys love to travel and are missing going on vacation. Welcome to another episode of Speak Easy Live. I'm sure all of you there are wondering, when will we be able to fly again? What will traveling be like in the new normal? It's sort of, we missed the entire summer of 2020. It's like the summer of 2020 never happened with this coronavirus quarantine that we have to all go through, that we have to live through for everyone to be safe and healthy.
There,
How
is
are
it
you? Yes.
better? There. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. Nesting at home. I've barely been out of the house for over 2 months now.
Oh my God, 2 months now. And for someone who works in the travel industry, how does it feel to be cocooned at home for the past 2 months?
Difficult because for the past 3 years, I've been used to traveling at least once a week on the average for work or what have you. And then now it's like totally gone.
So I guess a lot of us are feeling the same way. I'm chatting with Charo Logarta Lagamon. She's the Director for Corporate Communications for Cebu Pacific Air. Charo, maybe you could tell us a little bit about Cebu Pacific?
Well, Cebu Pacific is based in the Philippines. It's actually one of the oldest low-cost carriers in the region. Um, we are uh, we are the largest or the leading carrier in the Philippines. We have about 37 domestic destinations, so it's the widest. If you want to get island hop in the Philippines, that's with Cebu Pacific. On top of 25 international destinations, we are on our 24th year. So we're 24 years in existence, and we
Wow.
are, yes, we are supposed to be embarking on a road to 25 this year. But we're delaying that because COVID happened.
Okay. So how is for an airline that has the extensiveness of Cebu Pacific, how are you guys dealing with the current situation?
Well, like many other airlines around the world, it's not easy. It's really wreaked havoc on the global airline industry, and this is an unprecedented situation. You have like for Cebu Pacific specifically, we're not flying. We have no passenger operations. We do have limited number of all cargo flights because we still need to move important goods within, from one point to another. That's all we have so far. And then what? Yeah, and ironically, even if the aircraft is not flying, you have to pay for the upkeep. There are costs to that. So money's
Yeah.
not coming in, but money's going out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really a challenging time.
Definitely an unprecedented time and a big I mean the airline and even the travel and tourism industry as a whole is very severely impacted by these lockdowns, but it's something that we have to do and have to live through.
Well, yes. We were chatting earlier. If for those who were old enough to remember
Yes.
2001, 9/11 happened, and that also
Yes.
wreaked havoc on the aviation industry. But more than 20 years later, we are still here. So
Yeah.
it is going to bounce back. It's just really a matter of time and getting used to a new normal.
Yeah, and yeah, speaking of new normal, and that's definitely something that we'll delve into later on. And it's really just all about adapting to the ever-changing environment, I guess. What's the current situation with how Cebu Pacific is dealing with the customers right now? I assume, of course, a lot of the customers had to cancel their flights and are requesting rebookings or refunds. How is Cebu Pacific responding to your customers?
Okay, let's segregate that. There are pretty much two types of customers. One are those passengers whose flights have really been canceled because of whatever travel restrictions or quarantine imposed by governments here in the Philippines and abroad. Um, and then there are those customers or passengers whose flights are still, green and gold pretty much, who are simply not comfortable continuing or pursuing their travel plans. So these are the voluntary
Yes.
cancellations, so to speak. Okay, let's start with the passengers whose flights have really been canceled. So for them, we are offering, they have options to either rebook their flights to a later travel date. They can also opt for a refund, a full refund, or they can put the cost of the ticket in a travel fund. Now, this travel fund is like a credit with the airline, as you know, and you can use this to quote unquote pay for future bookings. Now, if in 1 year's
Yeah.
time you're not able to fly or use it, for some of the passengers, you can opt to get a refund. But for those book or flights have for those whose flights were canceled March 15 onwards, so they can do that. Now,
Yes.
the other set of passengers are those whose flights are from June 1 onwards, because in theory, we are supposed to be flying already starting June 1. For those whose flights
Okay.
are due and go June 1 downwards, you can opt to voluntarily rebook your flights. So the rebooking fees will be waived, but you may be subject to some fare differences. Or B, you can put the cost of the ticket in a travel fund. So those are the two options for those who voluntarily cancel their travels. The easiest thing to do is really to manage your booking online, and ideally you do it before your travel date, so that all of the options
Yeah.
are there, no hassle and all of that. The problem arises when people don't do it before their travel dates, or sometimes they just forget about it. But rest assured that the value of your ticket will still be there. It's just a matter of how you sort of manage it moving forward. So you can do it through the ticket office when it's open, or you can call the customer hotline to manage your booking moving forward.
Definitely refunding the ticket into a travel fund is much quicker, right, than getting a full refund.
Yes, I think that's the nuance here is that when you get in theory, the way you pay for your ticket is the way you will be refunded. If you pay via credit card or debit card, then it'll just go back to your account for as long as the account is open and active. So it'll just go back. The only thing is
Okay.
that because of the huge, can you imagine the volume of transactions? Normally it's 45 days, but now it's up to 4 billing cycles. So that's what, 4 or 5 months before you get before your account is credited back. Now, for cash payments, those who paid via the mall or the banks or the buy-in centers, uh, they have to get their money in cash from designated ticket offices. And unfortunately, at this time, the ticket offices are closed due to quarantine. But needless to say that the value of the ticket will always be there. They can resolve this or settle this when quarantine ends.
Comes from Atnina Wander. She's asking, do you think it is prudent to buy a ticket now for travel in 2021?
Okay. Actually, uh, without any bias or any, speaking not as removing my Cebu Pacific hat for this question. If you are, for as long as you take all of the precautions, you are aware of where you're going, what's the risk in the country you want to visit, there is no reason why you cannot travel in 2021. And like you always say, when you buy your ticket in advance, you tend to get better deals. And why
Yeah.
not? I mean, it's still in 2021, and hopefully by the end of this year, there will be some stability to the COVID situation.
Yeah, a lot of people are excited to start flying again. And so we have this question from Jerome at Super Tikoy, and he's asking, can everyone still fly post-pandemic?
The answer is yes. There's no reason why you cannot fly after the pandemic and after the quarantine period ends.
I mean, the challenge right now is that with the ECQ, sometimes it's very unpredictable, and we don't know if the dates will change. But given the information that we have now, when will we be able to fly again?
Okay. So in the Philippines, let's start with the Philippines first. Metro Manila is under modified enhanced community quarantine. So pretty much
Yes.
air travel is restricted. There are areas outside of Metro Manila that are already either on general community quarantine or no more quarantine.
Yes.
So varying levels of quarantine. But having said that, it is tricky to balance this all out. And so the prudent thing right now, because Metro Manila comprises the bulk of the air travel, at
Yes.
least those speaking, so it would be challenging to mount operations right now. And we have to wait until the MECQ is lifted over Metro Manila. And as the government announced, it will be until May 31. So
Okay.
pending government pronouncement, we have to wait. But we are raring to go. We are ready to resume flying as soon as the government says you can. But to manage expectations, do not expect that we will be back, or Cebu Pacific will be back at quarantine and pre-COVID levels of flying. We have to start gradually.
Yeah, on that point, can you give us a picture of how you have a very big network? I mean, domestically and within the region. Can you give us a picture of how the flights will resume? Will it be going through different phases?
Yes, well, I don't have the final plan yet, and we will be announcing that as soon as things are clearer. But initially, the gradual startup will begin with domestic routes. So
Okay.
initially, because factoring in market demand and passenger appetite to travel, and quarantine and travel restrictions, not just in the Philippines but also abroad. We will start with some domestic routes or some domestic flights, which will primarily cater to, I guess, those that were stranded and need
Okay.
to fly back home. So we will be starting with a fraction of domestic flights. That will primarily, at least that's the initial plan, but this is
Yeah.
all subject for finalization. Um, and these domestic routes will primarily cater to passengers that were stranded prior to the declaration of quarantine. And so it will be really for essential travel. We do not see a whole lot of summer vacationers or leisure travel going on at this time.
How about for international flights? Do you have any projections on when that will resume?
Uh, Well, we hope to restart international flights gradually as well, catering again to markets or addressing markets that have a high number of Filipinos or OFWs.
Hmm.
We're not sure yet when we can restart that. So it will be down the line, but hopefully we can restart some of it, not all of it, by late 2020.
Gabber Nagy is asking, how is Cebu Pacific preparing for the new normal?
Okay. The new normal, I think the most important thing to remember is that if 9/11 brought about the heightened security measures. So remember the time when we had to take off our shoes and then you had to go through so many x-rays and what have you. This time around, it's going to be focused on biosecurity. So
Okay.
what does that mean? Yeah, so it's managing the risk of infection or contamination. So what will that entail? It will mean, number one, we will be observing some level or some form of physical distancing between passengers, number one. Number two, it's going to be sanitize, 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 disinfect, disinfect, disinfect.
Yes.
It's going to be a higher level or much stringent protocols for disinfecting, not just cleaning, disinfecting the aircraft, every facility of the airlines, and the buses, the counters, uh, even the tray tables, the lavatories, all of that. And it will also entail making sure that our personnel are protected, so that they do not potentially infect other people or become infected themselves.
Okay.
So yeah, so those are some of the things that will happen. For the for an average air traveler, that will simply mean longer processes, longer wait times, and really more consciousness about your personal hygiene or personal cleanliness.
Maybe we can do a walkthrough of the new protocols from the perspective of a passenger.
Yeah, that's a okay. Let's start. Okay, so if you are a passenger, we will strongly encourage you first and foremost to check in for your flight online. Why? Because
Online.
we want online, yes. So you can do that through the website or the app. Because we want to have as minimal a contact as possible with the ground staff and minimum touch. And that's a preventive measure. Uh, so when you come into the airport, okay, the airport authority or the government will require all travelers, the moment you set foot at the airport, to be wearing a face mask. So face masks are a new normal. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, okay. So if you have no check-in baggage, you can go straight to gate. No problem. If you do have check-in baggage, so you have to fall in line and there, so drop off your baggage. If you notice, there are markers on the floor because you have to maintain at least a 2 meter, 1.5 or 2 meter distance from the person in front of you in the line. When you check in or when you check your baggage in, even if you are a family or a group traveling, only one representative per group can fall in line. You will present or hold up your boarding pass or ticket to the check-in agents or the ground staff. They will scan it, pretty much like what they do in the grocery when they scan your items.
Yeah.
They will not touch your boarding pass or your ticket. Then you put in your bags. So you put it in and it'll go into the conveyor for check-in. Then you go straight to your boarding gate. At the boarding gate, the airport authorities will also seat people apart. So there is, if I'm not mistaken, a 1 or 2 seat apart configuration per boarding gate.
Okay.
Which yeah, so which implies that you have to come to the airport for your flight at least 3 hours. Safe 3 hours for domestic flights to be safe, because the processes will be longer. The
Okay.
check, it's not just the airline that will do the checks. It's you have quarantine, you have the airport authority. So there are so many other processes that a traveler will have to go through. So 3 hours would be safe to if you want to catch your flight. Check-in counters will close 1 hour before your flight. So before it was, if you recall, 45
45
minutes.
minutes.
Now no more. It's 1 hour.
Okay, 1 hour. Okay, that's very important to take note.
Okay.
And then how is
When
it like when you ride, for example, the bus or the shuttle, or if you're not using
the
the
tube,
tube? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, the buses are the same as the aircraft. The buses are cleaned and disinfected in between use. So that's a constant. That will be constant. And it's the same thing. So and then it will only be 20 passengers per bus, so that you're spaced properly. And
Okay.
so the implication of that is longer boarding time.
Okay.
Yeah.
In
So
terms of, we have a question, a relevant question that came in from Alexi V. He's asking, what about procedures for international flights? If when international flights will return, how will it be different from the domestic flights?
well, international flights we don't have our own guidelines yet. We will announce
Okay.
that before we resume international flights, but there will be higher levels. So I think even for domestic, there are health declaration forms that are filled out. So I reckon it will be the same for international travel. So there may be some health declaration or vaccine requirements and other health certifications that you might need for international travel, depending on the country you are going to.
And going back to our walkthrough, so you took us to the tube, or how about when we board the plane? How will it be like inside the plane?
Okay. So when you board the aircraft, you will be called at the boarding gate. You will be called by row number. So it's not going to be row 1 to 15, and then there's a long line. That's not.
Okay.
It's going to be row 1, row 2, row 3, so on and so forth. For hand carry baggage, strictly only one piece of hand carry baggage. So for girls, before, if you recall, for girls it would be a handbag and a trolley. Not anymore. Your handbag has to go into your trolley, or you lose the trolley. It's just strictly one piece of hand carry for all passengers, not exceeding 7 kilograms. And the reason for this is because we will also require or ask passengers to stow their own baggage so that nobody else touches your baggage.
Okay, we have a question regarding the
Mhm.
seating arrangement or the capacity of the planes. Will it change considering the new normal? This is a question that just came in from Silinism. What would be the maximum capacity of the planes when the new normal eases in?
Okay, okay, I think we have to be cognizant that we have to balance the economic viability of mounting a flight to vis-a-vis the new normal for health measures. If you fly the plane strictly at one seat apart or leaving the middle seats vacant, that will mean that only 50% of the aircraft will be filled. And quite frankly, as you know, that's not viable for any airline. And
Yes.
so we have to balance it. For Cebu Pacific, when we can space passengers, when let's say the flight is not full, and we anticipate that in the first few months of traveling, we're probably going to see loads that are not 100% or 90% full. So you can space passengers. For
Okay.
groups that are traveling together, like families, or if you're traveling with your boyfriend or in a group, then you can sit beside each other.
Okay.
Um, but when we can, we will space passengers, but we will strictly adhere to all other preventive measures. So the face mask, you cannot take it off if you're in the aircraft. If you are assigned a seat in the aircraft, you cannot. Some people like changing seats. When there's a vacancy, they'll say, "Oh, transfer here." The cabin crew will not allow you to do that, and the reason for that is in for whatever reason that you need to be contacted by health authorities for contact tracing, they know where you sat.
Okay, so I guess you've answered at Brennan Mercado's question. Should the middle seats be left vacant as an additional precautionary measure? So if the plane isn't a full capacity, they'll be definitely spacing out the passengers unless they're traveling in a group or they're a family. Am I correct, Charo?
Yes, when we can, we will try to space passengers. But again, we are taking all other preventive measures, but we also balance it out again with the viability of an airline because it would be a challenge to fly aircraft that's half filled all the time.
We have a really timely question or good question that just came in from Ian Ray Garcia. He's asking, how about the food service? Since we're already in our walkthrough right now, we're already in the plane. How about food service? Will there be changes as well?
Good question, and hi Ian, thank you for tuning in. Uh, well, yes. For the time being, there will be no food. So the onboard snacks and treats of Cebu Pacific will not be available for the time being, except for bottled water. And of course, it's to prevent people from taking off their masks.
I'm also curious and this is something that directly affects me as a travel writer since I contribute a lot for Smile Magazine. Will in-flight magazines still be around?
Well, that's something that's still, quite frankly, being studied because we do love Smile Magazine, and we're trying to see how we can balance this out. There are proposals on the table so that it's a wide gamut of ideas from going digital or using a special kind of paper or putting in antibacterial wipes or what have you. But Nothing is final yet as far as the in-flight magazine is concerned. Also, we're showing an image of the
Okay.
cabin crew and the pilot. Okay, before these guys are allowed to do their duty for the day, they will go through mandatory rapid testing. So
Okay.
we're sure that these guys are cleared to fly. Okay, now when you deplane, so normally our usual weirdness is that when the light goes off, everybody just scrambles, like throws up and stands up all at the same time. Yeah, um, that won't happen. So what's going to happen is that everybody remains seated even after the pilot turns off the fasten seatbelt sign. You will be called by row number to stand up, get your bag, and deplane. So it's going to be row by row. So again, it's a longer process of deplaning, but this is done again so that people don't crowd. In the lavatory, also, tendency is when you're in flight, you kind of fall in line to use the lavatory. So that's also not going to be allowed. You have to sit down and wait until the light of the lavatory
Okay.
turns green. And the cabin crew will tell you when you can signal you that it's your turn to use the lavatory.
Um, Great. We have another question coming from Ian from Davao. Do we have a list of initial destinations that will be available once Cebu Pacific resumes operations?
We're working on that. It's not yet final, but we anticipate that we will be making the announcement in the coming days.
You mentioned earlier about the rapid testing for the crew.
Mhm.
Will there be rapid testing for travelers? Will it be something that will be implemented? Because I watched the webinar that was hosted by DOT, and one of the airline experts were mentioning that that's something they're considering for airlines overseas.
Well, it's an idea definitely that's out there, but we also have to balance out because right now, as you know, airlines are fairly challenged, and to test all passengers
Yeah.
before they are allowed to board the flight is something that we really need to look at, given the financial challenges that airlines face at the moment.
You also mentioned that, of course, disinfecting will be more frequent, of course, than it used to be. So, how frequent will these be disinfections be done?
Well, the in between flights, so for example, the flight leaves Manila and lands at the destination. In that destination, there will be cleaning and disinfection, albeit a faster version. After the aircraft ends all its flights for the day, so it's back to its hub or parked now at its hub. That's when these guys in the white overalls come in and do the deep disinfection. This is not just a normal cleaning and washing. These guys clean and then they use a mist. They mist uh, the entire aircraft using a specialized chemical that kills up to 99.99% of viruses, bacteria, and contaminants, including the coronavirus. And this chemical is approved by the aircraft manufacturer. So you can't just use like any other kind of disinfectant. There are specialized chemicals specific for aviation.
So, like preparing for a flight, what are now the new must brings for passengers?
Okay, must brings face mask. Face mask, face
Face
mask, face
mask.
mask. It's
Okay.
mandatory. Um, Definitely always have with you a small bottle of alcohol-based sanitizer. It'll be widely available for sure, but
Okay.
it's always have one on hand with you all the time. Wipes would be nice to have. And some people, gloves would be fine, or face mask.
Okay.
But those are the basics. I think face mask and alcohol-based sanitizer would be the basics. And then the others would be if they would, and then more importantly is if you are not feeling well, you yourself as a traveler, if you're not feeling well, you can please forego your travel plans.
Okay, so you guys do take note of those things. Those are the things that you have to consider now that you're traveling in the new during the new normal with Cebu Pacific. Do remember to wear your face mask. Bring your sanitizer, and if you want, also your wipes and gloves. And if you're not feeling well, please forego that flight.
Yes,
We have
definitely.
a question about the alcohol. Like, how much alcohol can I bring on board? This is a question coming in from Mary Joy Villanueva, who's watching us. We have a question that came in from at I am Neil Bacchus. He's asking, how will these changes affect the fares? So there's a lot of word
Of
going around that they'll be say goodbye to piece of fares and low fares, and that's something that Cebu Pacific was built around. So how will fares be like post lockdown?
I think the more important thing to remember is one, when we start flying again, demand for travel is sluggish. It's low, and so
Yes.
of course when demand is low, uh, you cannot you cannot you need to stimulate demand. So prices will continue to be affordable. Okay, number one. Number two, even with these additional cleaning and disinfection protocols, yes, it will add to the cost of operating, but there are ways to mitigate these costs. And Cebu Pacific in particular is known for promotional fares.
Yeah.
Our mandate, our reason for existence is to provide everyone with fares that are affordable and accessible, and that's not going to change. We will still continue to offer promotional fares. We will still continue to have seat sales, and that's something that I think everyone can look forward to.
Also, we have some comments popping in. This sounds encouraging. Says I am Neil Bacos. Okay, and Dongho is excited to see Dinagat Island via Surigao
Oh,
City. Yes, Dinagat is one of the untapped island hopping destinations in Mindanao, and I love Dinagat Islands.
okay.
Hooray! Harold gives a shout out, and he's saying, I'm always grateful. I'll always be grateful to be flying with Cebu Pacific." And I am Neil Bacchus says, looking forward to traveling back to Luzon. We have a question that just came in from Ian Ray Garcia. Even without the vaccine, will Cebu Pacific pursue flying to international destinations in the coming months?
Uh, I think the issue of the vaccine is let's park that first because globally nobody has a vaccine, but there is a demand for travel. You have Filipinos living abroad. You have OFWs who want to come home. The demand is there, and we need to serve that demand. But we will be starting, or we intend to start international operations when things are settled and when we are, it will be again a gradual restart, and we will build up to it as the months progress.
We have a question also that came in from Alex CV. He's asking, will the lavatory also be sanitized after every use throughout the flight?
Every 30 minutes, it will be cleaned and sanitized, even in between flights, or even when in flying, rather.
Okay, that's very reassuring, and it's nice. Thank you so much, Charo, for sharing with us your insights. And it's great that we have this insider information that gives us this peace of mind. A lot of people are. I did a little survey. I'm looking for it. I placed this. I put up a little poll on my IG stories. I think yesterday, and I asked if they still have plans to travel by air, by
This
plane
year.
late this year. And we've got well, this is a small sample size of less than 100 people who responded to this, but it's great to see that a majority of them are really excited to start flying again.
Also as a tip for those who are looking for seat sales, instead of just looking via the official Cebu Pacific social media accounts on Facebook or Twitter, also visit the website cebupacificair.com, because sometimes the sales are there, or they're more prominent there, because in social media accounts, so it's really a lot of concerns about specific consumer concerns or passenger concerns. So also check the website because sometimes the seat sales that you're looking for are there.
So, how about for the latest updates regarding flights or anything related to COVID pertaining to the airline? Where can they get the latest updates moving forward?
Well, we do post on our official Cebu Pacific Facebook accounts and Twitter account, and then there is more detailed information. There is a frequently asked questions list that is constantly updated, and you will find that in the Cebu Pacific website, cebupacificair.com. When you go to the booking site, you just go to that blue bar at the bottom edge of the screen. You just click the advisories that are there, and that'll lead you to additional information, and that'll also lead you to the page where the FAQs are located.
We have 5 minutes left, and I don't want to suddenly just lose you all without
Mhm.
me thanking you, Charo, for joining us tonight and
That's
sharing
my
your
pleasure.
insights. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and you stay inspired and excited to be to fly again. And hope we can catch up soon and even travel together. Who knows?
Yes, yes. So again, thank you for having me, and thank you guys for watching. And definitely one day it's coming soon. Everyone will fly again.
Yes, guys. Every hashtag. That's a great hashtag. Everyone will fly again. And Neil Bacchus says, "Thank you for this session. This is very informative. Thank you, Edgar and Miss Chara, and thank you, Neil, for tuning in and sending us your questions and hanging on and staying with us for the entire duration of this live chat."
Again, thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for watching. We really sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for the support and understanding and the patience. Please bear with us. This is really a difficult situation, especially for the airlines, actually for all of us. But we will bounce back. We will bounce back, and
You
again,
will.
everyone will fly again.
Agree, agree. I really agree with that hashtag. Thank you so much again, Charo, for joining us. And guys, of course, to you, thank you for watching us. And thank you so much for being such an interactive audience and sending us those comments and questions and really listening to our conversation.